let's talk Rhythm of War. You may have noticed that I am not at home, and you are correct. My life has been absolutely hectic, hence why this is a day late. But I recently finished Rhythm of War. I had to go back and reread like the Sander launch yesterday morning because it weren't going in. It was not going in. It's been a bit of a hectic week, to be fair. So, Rhythm of War. What did I think? Did I enjoy it? Is it better on the reread? The answer to the last question is yes. Of course it's going to be better on the reread. When I first read this, I tried doing the audio at work and I was just crying in the stable. I was like, I can't do this at work. So I just put it down, and then I did a read along with a friend of mine on Instagram. I'll link her below. And so we went through the whole of the Stormlight Archive together. We did roughly one a month. We kind of managed it. One every 6 weeks, one a month. And it was fun. I really, really enjoyed it. That's when I finished it through in its entirety. You will also be able to find a massive rant about Gavilar fucking Kholin as the worst man to ever exist. Yep. I hate him so much just from the prologue of Rhythm of War, how he treated Navani, and how that is so deep rooted in Navani thinking that she just isn't, like, she's just not a scholar, when obviously she is. But because Gavilar was like, no, you're not, Navani just believed it. And colossal wanker. But anyway, I did the read along, and then pretty much immediately after I finished Rhythm of War, a couple months later, I went and reread the whole series again via audio. So this time is my third reread of Rhythm of War, but it is my fourth reread for the other books. And I used to think, and I think a lot of people, I don't know if it's because I've been online a lot, did used to think that Rhythm of War was the weakest out of the four. I disagree. Now, having reread them, I really enjoyed this. Like, don't get me wrong, it is a bit depressing at times just because of Kaladin and his journey and his whole arc that he's going through. But then, there's just so much that happens. Like, Navani and Raboniel, Kaladin on his journey, his fear, his, like, PTSD, and his journey with Syl, his family, his father, Lirin, who, again, another wanker. There's so much packed into this book that I forgot how entertaining it is, because the first couple of times I read this, I was just crying. I was sobbing. The first time I read this, I was, like, the last half of it, because I was physically reading it, I was just, like, bawling my eyes out. Literally bawling my eyes out. Because of Kaladin Stormblessed, man. Kaladin Stormblessed. So, what are my thoughts? I'm going to start with Navani, because people say this is a Venli book, and it kind of is, because Venli is the flashbacks, but for me, this is very much a Navani book. This is Navani coming into herself. We get POVs from Navani. We've had a couple before, but this is a proper POV from Navani. Her holding everything together. She's just badass. Like, I mean, you have to expect that. She's Yasna's mother. Like, Yasna is fucking Yasna. But Navani is just incredible. Navani's censorship, I'm going to call it censorship, it's not quite the right word I want, but her ability to suppress her actual scholarliness of being a scholar. She says she's very much, I just inspire other scholars, I just do this. No, you are a scholar. And her ability to do that is so prevalent in today. Like, how, not all men, but some men would just treat women, how women just dumb down themselves because men have fragile egos and cannot cope with a woman who is smart. Things like that. And it's fascinating. Like, you would never have thought Navani would be like that when you first meet Navani, right? Because she is as clever as her daughter. She's just Navani. She is a storm. She is somebody who is just unrelenting. And then you get inside her head and then you realise, oh, there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of things that Gavilar did that Navani ended up believing, even knowing that they were not true. And it is just fascinating. It is being inside her head, learning more about the Fabrials, how she wants to, like the first, in the prologue, we're in Navani's POV, and Elakar's wife very much is like, using Navani as an excuse. And Navani's like, but I want to go talk to the guy about gemstones and Fabrials, and like wants to pick his brain because she's so fascinated by that. And I love it. I just love her. But the moment that she realizes Yuthiru is being taken over, she takes action. She gives orders. And like, this line sticks out to me. One of the soldiers said, we just need somebody to take action. And there is no better, I'm probably butchering it, but it's something along like this kind of thing. Some men might balk at taking orders from a woman, but there is no better person, because you are married to the Blackthorn, and who was going to be the woman who read the tactic books to the Blackthorn is going to be Navani. That is completely butchered. That isn't an exact quote. I know it's not. It's butchered it completely, but that's roughly the gist of it, and I loved it. So she took action. They did all they could. They destroyed what they had to. They just provided time. They knew they were gone, but they provided some time. They tried to save the sibling, and they kind of managed it, which is incredible of itself. And then you get the Navani and Raboniel relationship, which is so fascinating. Raboniel is another favourite character of mine. Like, she is the enemy. She is, however years old, she killed her own daughter. She is doing everything that she can to win this war, and she might not like it. She might not want to kill the human race, but she realizes this is the only thing that is going to kill the war, so you guys are going to die. She was known as Lady of Pains, which already I'm in love. Now she becomes Lady of Wishes, because she did like the title of Lady of Pains. And if somebody like Raboniel is powerful enough to stop people calling you a name, well, so there is that. And their relationship, how Raboniel is very much encouraging Navani to be a scholar, like, do what you want, you're under occupation, but still be a scholar. And Navani, I'm not a scholar. And Raboniel going like, bitch, please, if you are not a scholar, I am not infused. Like, and I loved their relationship and how it bloomed, and how they were enemies, but they were able to work together. And then how they found anti-woodlight, how they would sing together, how Navani learnt the rhythms in a sense together, and how Navani learnt the rhythms of Roshar, starting to hum, starting to learn and understand a little bit of the rhythms that the fused listeners or whatever were, their way of speaking, and still, providing what she can at slight resistance, because I have a suspicion that if those two weren't on opposing sides, they would get on so well together. They'd be like creating things, they'd be pals, they'd be everything, and it was just incredible. And those were my favourite parts of this book, was Navani and Raboniel, because they are just so fascinating together. Like, oh, there's so much to unpack. There's so much depth to that relationship. Like, I love it when people do this. You have two people on like opposing sides, but they still get on. They still realize this, okay, yeah, you know, we would get on in other circumstances. I just love them together. I just love them, how Raboniel knows these things, Navani knows these things, they still get on, they still talk, they're doing all of these things, investigating, learning about, you know, void lie, anti-void lie, all of this. Raboniel giving Navani some clues to how you know, the gemstones, the stormlight and all of this working. Navani realizing, because she's found anti-void light, that Raboniel is now going to use that and find anti-stormlight to use on this, on Radiance, and it's just tension, it's things finding out, and yet they still like each other. And then you get to fucking Moash trying to kill Navani, even though Navani was not his point of his problem was Elhokar, right? Navani was not his problem. And yet he still went, I still want to kill her because she birthed the man who killed my grandparents. Like, dude, they're dead, move on. But the moment that Moash did drive that blade into Navani and went to go after her, and then bearing in mind, like before this, again, even more, going back to Navani hating to want to do this, but still creating the trap for Raboniel, and it working, but kind of failing. Then obviously Moash arrives, and Moash tries to kill Navani, and fuck that fucking dude. But what really brought it round for me was Raboniel clutching Moash to stop him from killing Navani. Raboniel even offered Navani an escape right before Navani set off the trap. And, you know, to say, yeah, I don't want you to die. I'm not going to stop him, but if you leave early, I ain't gonna say nothing. And then to go to actually stopping, half dying, and stopping Moash from actually finishing the job, giving Navani that extra chance to just escape, is I love it. I love it so much. Could most possibly be my favourite moment in all the books I've read. Obviously Winter Trees, I haven't read that yet, but the relationship between those two, how it came about, Raboniel stopping Moash, giving Navani that chance, I love it so much. Then obviously we have Navani and the sibling. That is an interesting relationship, because the sibling almost comes across a little bit childlike, but also hurt from what has happened before, and how that's all kind of playing out, and how Navani's trying to gain the sibling's trust. Sibling doesn't want to have Navani's trust, doesn't want to trust any of them, any human, because of what's happened before, which, you know, to be fair, I can probably get it. But then Raboniel obviously discovers what's happening. She's been listening in the whole time, so she knows where a node is, and all of this going on. The sibling thinks Navani's betrayed her. It wasn't necessarily Navani's fault. She didn't know. All of that to unpack, and then you get to the end where the sibling is like, send me Relaine. The Relaine can't get there, so he can't bond the sibling, which I really want Relaine to have a spren. I really do. I love Relaine. I do. But unable to do this, Navani dying, the sibling almost dying, sibling going, you just want to live, Navani going, don't you? Like, this is your only option to survive. And eventually she you know, says Navani isn't worthy. And that's, again, driving the knife in harder from what Gavilar used to say. But then it comes back around. Moash is about to kill her, and the sibling agrees to bond Navani, and Navani goes, life before death, you bastard. And I fucking love it. I love it. Oh, I live for these moments. I do. I love it so much. Those were my just favourite parts of this book. Maybe the whole series. Who knows? I love that moment. But then we obviously get Kaladin's story. And Kaladin, man, Kaladin's been through it, dude. He has been through a hell of a lot. And going from, like, don't get me wrong, the opening scene, Kaladin being there, we're in Lyran's POV, Kaladin bursting alight with Stormlight to come rescue the whole town, and this general, and Liran, like, I didn't want you to do it like this, and Kaladin was like, what else am I supposed to do? They're fused, but we can't talk peacefully through this. Like, Liran is Delulu, not gonna lie. But then you do learn with Liran, like, you really do learn that the reason Liran is kind of how he doesn't want to die is because war killed Tian. That's how he looks at it. It killed Tian. If he, he created the conflict by stealing the gems for Kaladin, and then leading to Rashon doing what he did, leading to Tian dying, all of this. So Liran's just like, no conflict now, we'll just work alongside. And so you kind of get it. You do kind of get it. But Liran needs a whole fucking slap round his face. He needs a punch in the gut to wake up to what the fuck is he doing to his son. Like, even Hestina saying, is like, he's my son. Like, of course I'm going to stand beside him. And calling Liran out, which, good for her. And then Liran being like, oh, of course I'm still going to save him. Yeah, but by bringing him back to that place, you could also be putting the noose around his neck. Like, Anyway. But anyway, the first scene, badass as ever, of Kaladin, Stormlight, the fight, how you start to understand how his and Leshweed's relationship's kind of going to work. I'm so looking forward to those two in the next book. How that works. But then obviously getting signed off by Dalinar because he froze. And he's been doing that a bit. It's really taken his toll. I think it's been like a year since the ending of Oathbringer. So all these fights, all these things, Kaladin not knowing what he's kind of doing, where he's kind of going to go, kind of agreeing to go back to work for his father, but that's not really what he wanted to do. But he's like, I can't think of anything else to do, and it pleases my father. All of that to happen. Him just getting worse and worse, realizing that, oh wait, there is something that I can do. I am a radiant. I can help other people who suffer like I do, and the starting of the therapy session, the therapy book this is, and that's kind of what he does. He gets the group session around, starts talking. He doesn't want to participate. He's like, no. But everybody else is, which again makes me so much more excited for Winter Truth. Oh my god. And then obviously the invasion. So then he couldn't give up. And that moment he picked up that scalpel to defend Teft. And Liran going, what have you done with my son? Realizing he killed someone. And never do it in the, like, because it was in his surgery room, laying into him, not realizing, him saying you didn't know they were going to kill Teft, Talenton saying you didn't know they weren't. I am with Kaladin on this point, to be fair. Like, I assume the worst with the idea that if it's not the worst, great. And saving Teft and just leaving and having that weight of what Liran said, like, he was doing everything just to save Teft, and like that freezing moment and then still doing it, and and then running from the pursuer is, and obviously they're trapped above. Kaladin doesn't have a lot of his powers. He has some, not a lot. The pursuer is always after him. That relationship was interesting. Like, the pursuer being so on his tradition, insane, obsessed with Kaladin because Kaladin killed him. Like, dude, you're however many years old? That is such a childish fucking thing ever. And then Kaladin still killing him in the end. And being like, I'll kill you again. Defeated one. Yes. But, being stuck up in the tower, no powers, finding a way to contact Navani through the sibling, which is really interesting. I love that dynamic. But then David. I relate to David. in a couple of sense, because he just not feeling the need to talk. Yeah, totally get it. Because I have suffered a little bit with selective mutism when I was younger. Because I've overwhelmed everything. So I understand that. Definitely understand that to a T. But that was definitely interesting. And obviously then after that, we get Kaladin learning how to use his fabrial. I still don't really, even on the fourth reread, do not understand how that fabrial device works. I'm just trusting in Sanderson that it makes sense. I don't understand it. I don't. I'm a dumbass when it comes to science, so I'm just trusting in you, Sanderson, man, that it does make sense. The moment that really had me crying was when he lost Syl. When he went to protect the node, got stuck down the well, separated from Syl. The bomb wasn't broken, but they were just pulled too far apart. He almost died under the well. Obviously, Raboniel had stabbed him because he wanted to see what healing powers are like. And then you get Wit. Wit just being Wit, man. And just him and Kaladin, you know, a story in which that whole thing, and then he comes out of it. Dalinar as well, helping Kaladin, lifting him up, stopping him from falling, and then he's getting back. And then you get that moment where you know, R'hllane goes after, goes to, obviously, Lirin. Lirin's being the colossal wanker. And then Venli, oddly enough, suggesting they go a free lift. And then Lift saving everybody, then Lift waking up Teft, which was just incredible. Incredible. I'm going to go a little bit onto Venli right now. And then we're going to talk about the ending as a whole, because I liked this read of Venli more than I have in previous. Because Venli, she is a character I struggle to kind of fully like. I understand the motivations, I get what Sanderson's trying to do with her, and I think she definitely works as a character. But for me personally, I'm like, I can give or take Venli, right? I definitely preferred Eshonai, and what the Stormfather ended up doing with Eshonai was that warmed my heart. Just warmed my heart completely. But Venli, her slowly learning, you know, the spread she's trapped, learning the powers and all of this, and slowly is kind of a little bit too, like, it feels like Venli hasn't fully committed to what she's done yet, to being on the Radiant side, to being Radiant, to being against Odium, for being all of this. She's just too frightened, which I totally understand. But I didn't, as a character, I'm a bit like, in a sense. And I definitely like that she's trying to do things to help herself and help a few other listeners and Feuds and Pashendi and whatever, to escape Odium, in a sense, but willing to let everybody else burn it at the same time. So there's that all going on. But the moment that I did really enjoy was the fact that she revealed herself to Leshwi, and Leshwi was like, what have you done? And Venli was like, I'm sorry. Leshwi was like, no, this is brilliant. This is amazing. Like, we can be Radiant again. And going all through that and talking, and then that, you know, pushing Leshwi to stand up against kind of Odium, and, you know, releasing Lirin, and all of that implication, and then R'hllane, you know, taking charge of the situation. R'hllane saying, you cannot back down now. Do you think he's going to let this slide? Like, you are now on our side, or you're on your own. Like, you can't cover this up. And then obviously they're being on their side. R'hllane promising he would get them out of the situation that, you know, they find themselves in. And it's just lovely. But this is meant to be the Venli book, and I just found it a bit lackluster. I found it meh. As Venli, she's not my favourite character. Some of her flashbacks were interesting, but again, and it gave us a little bit more information, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I was very much meh on the whole thing. And then we're going to go to the Santa launch, which, holy shit, this is the second best one. Or is it? I don't know. Because there's Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, and then Rhythm of War. They're all very close to each other because it's just incredible. Like, the part when I start reading this, I'm like hooked on this. I'm like, I do not want to put this down. I want to keep going and just consume it and cry, which is what I did. Literally what I did. So Kaladin goes to face the pursuer again. Teft goes with Liv to try and wake some of the other Radiants to try and take their tower back. And then fucking Moash. If anybody is still a Moash lover after what he's done, still thinks he can have a redemption arc after what he did to fucking Teft. Not even Teft, he went to kill a child. Like, a 10-year-old child? No, she's 13. A 13-year-old child. He went and he sliced her legs like it was absolutely nothing. He went to kill her, and I'm just, no. Nope. Bash his steel little head until it explodes. Moash kills Teft. He kills Teft's friend, as Teft is so close to saying the next ideal. As Teft is realising and growing and accepting himself and not beating himself up about everything. You know, he's moved away from the Moss Dens. He was there for Kaladin. He stayed behind for Kaladin. Like, and then Moash just killed his friend and then killed him. And that can just never be forgiven. I cried so hard the first time I read through that, and I knew he was gone. Especially at the funeral, even just, you know, mentioning the funeral, I was like, no, he can't be gone. He's Teft. He's been there from the start. He's always been beside Kaladin. And then Moash going one step further and dumping him in front of Kaladin. And Kaladin going a bit comatose. And Moash saying, don't do anything. If Kaladin wakes up, you kill his father. That is how you kill somebody like Kaladin. The pursuer being like, you don't tell me what to do. I'm going to kill him now. And Moash like, no, this is how you do it. And yeah. And then you get Leshwi releasing the father, in a sense, attacking the others, helping Kaladin as the pursuer goes to try and kill Kaladin, and Kaladin wakes up, he starts to fight, defeats the pursuer again by lashing him to the wall and lashing his head to the floor and just ripping his head off like it was nothing. Like, Kaladin is so expertly good at killing people for somebody who freezes when he does it, somebody who is a surgeon. It's insane. It's insane. Then obviously Kaladin goes for his father, but the stupid fucking Fuse panics. Just let the guy go. He wouldn't come after you then. But no, he threw him out of the tower. And Kaladin just leaps after him like, dude, you don't have Pat. What the fuck do you think you're going to do? And then Dalinar coming through. And I love these little glimpses of Dalinar and the Stormfather and how their bond is growing, how they're getting closer, and how the Stormfather is changing. And realising that, oh, you know, maybe, you know, we like this change, right? Or I'm willing now to change it more. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But then he jumps out the window, and it's just like Dalinar kind of doesn't freeze time, but the Stormfather slows everything down. So, and puts almost Kaladin in a vision with Tien and the horse and what happened to how it goes, but all the way back to where Kings. And it's just phenomenal how Sanderson can just do that. And then you have, he says the fourth ideal. And at that moment, when I first read that, I screamed. I was like, yes! I was like fucking Emma Watson in the Goblet of Fire where Harry almost like catches the egg, right? I was like, yes, do it, bitch. I just loved it. He's been trying so hard for so long, still being like, I can't remember the words, Kaladin. I meant to help, but I can't. And Kaladin being like, you're helping by being here, and then saying the fourth ideal and saying like, I cannot protect everybody. but I can save my father. And that was it. Him, the armor, grabbing Liren being like, you're cutting that a bit close, weren't you? And just all of that. And then Liren, like, this was the moment that doesn't make me hate Liren as much anymore. But when I first read through this, I was like, no, bitch, you're never going to be forgiven. But now I'm like, maybe. Is that Liren painted the sash glyph on his forehead because he wanted to understand why people were getting so much hope from Kaladin. And he also said, I should probably support you as well. And then at that moment he did that, and then Kaladin's sash glyph falls off. That moment, best, just the best. I loved it, how they have everything, everything that's going on. It's just one of the best moments in this book. One of the best moments was just that, having come back round, having both of them learn, and it's just phenomenal. But they gain back the tower, they gain everything, and it's not all great, but it's better. What does really interest me is that Dalinar obviously goes to visit a herald. Herald's insane. Herald tries to take Dalinar's bond and spawn the Stormfather against the Stormfather's will, which would have just been what's going on. But what really took me interest is how people are killing Spren. Not just like with what Rabonio and Moash created. This was something that they discovered. Spren, how they meant to look in this Roshar world, not in Shades. No, how they meant to look in Shadesmar in Roshar, right? Like, what? What? And just dead. And the Stormfather being like, this is impossible. But obviously it is possible because they've succeeded. Who's done it? Why? I want to know the answers to that fucking question. I want to know so fucking bad what's going to happen. And I don't think, are we going to get an answer in Wind and Truth? I don't know, but I just want to know. I have realised I have not spoken about Adolin. And don't get me wrong, some of the points that we're going through there, I loved. This is the book that Shallan didn't annoy me. Like, I've been a Shallan lover up to this point. I still am, to be fair. But her talking with Reyes, realising Patton was, like, one who betrayed her, you know, in trying to help her at the same time. All of this going on, that kind of thing. It was, I don't know, it's not quite repetitive, but I was like, I feel like we've been here before. But the most interesting thing was Adolin agreeing to this trial, the sham of a trial that was going on from the Honor Spren, which really does show how corrupt anything can be. Like, the Honor Spren was so desperately just like wanting him to be guilty, they just fabricated the trial. They sent people out who disagreed with them. They did all of this, and I was like, yeah, this really does open your eye to what Honor Spren are actually like. And then obviously you get the Herald that's there, and all the things going with him, how he's technically still under their control. Like, he doesn't have much more say when they find Shallan there. But the moment Mair says we chose was shattering. That's such a revelation of, like, they chose to break their bond. They chose death as much as a Spren can die because of what they learned. Because they learned that humans were the Voidbringers. And, that was a moment. That was an impacting moment. But Adolin and Mair's bond, how it's been growing since Oathbringer to this point, is I've just loved every second of it. I am hoping against hope Adolin does survive Winter Truce, because I'd love to see that bond grow in fruition and really become something that is akin to a Radiant, but not a Radiant, right? Because of his bond that he has with Mair, to show something that he has created a bond with something that is dead, helping Mair helping him. It's all just, it's beautiful, and I just love it. I do just love it to bits. But those are my thoughts on Rhythm of War. I am beyond excited for Winter Truth, as well as beyond terrified. If you have any theories for Winter Truth, drop them below. Do you agree with some of my points on Rhythm of War? Do you disagree? Start a conversation. I will see you in another video, and I'm a little bit terrified for when I hold Winter Truth in my hand next week, and we can find out how this first arc ends, and who lives and who dies.